Hello everybody and welcome to the Enduro Alexis channel, where we will be having interviews with various adventure riders like Sam Manicom. So I have a couple of questions for you.
Hi.
Yeah. Okay, first off, I read on the internet and also in magazines that you started motorcycling actually quite late, at the age of 34. Do you consider yourself a late bloomer then?
A late bloomer? No, I was banned from motorcycling when I was younger. I think my parents knew me very well. I've always been a bit of a boundary stretcher, and I think they knew that I would probably kill myself by stretching boundaries if I'd started younger.
Older people, then they say, "Oh, I'm too old, I can't get into that now." What would you say to those people?
I think if you're fit enough, then do it. We know a chap who was riding down through Africa when he was 65 years old, and he's 72 now, and he's still riding around the world on his motorcycle and having an awful lot of fun at it too.
How do you think the differences are between a younger person and an older person? What different experiences do they have?
I think it's a really good question, because a younger person tends to ride faster because they're itching to see what happens next, and they want to challenge themselves as well. What are they capable of? Whereas an older person has a lifetime of experience, and I guess they know that they don't bounce quite so well. So if they fall off, well, they're more likely to break something. I talked to several older motorcyclists, and they've all said to me words to the effect of, well, when you've a lifetime's worth of experience, you know the value of going slower and looking at things and getting involved in things. So yeah, they think that they get better value out of a trip than a younger person does.
Yeah.
I think it's just different.
I mean, well, if you go on these long journeys, sometimes it's hard for people to take that length of time off unless they're, for example, in between jobs. How would you recommend going about explaining to an employer that you need to go for a sabbatical year, take some time off, to persuade them that it would be good for the company as well?
Do you know, this is just such a good question, because most people that I talk to say, I haven't got the time, I haven't got the money, what do I do about my career? And actually you can turn an adventure overland trip, a year-long trip, into something that is an asset. You can put it as an entry on your CV. For example, let's say that you're working for an engineering company. Why don't you talk to your boss about linking up with engineering companies who are in the same sorts of business in various different parts of the world, and doing a month's work with those people, learn from their skills and their talents, and bring back all of that knowledge to your own company. That sort of influx of knowledge to a company, well, it can only be healthy, can't it?
And if you, for example, go with others, then it can show that you have team working spirit.
Too right. And I think being able to show your boss that you can stand on your own 2 feet and that you can make decisions under pressure, that you have got common sense, because goodness knows it's common sense more than anything else that keeps you alive and healthy when you're on the road.
I mean, does it always have to be a round the world trip that takes, like, for example, a year or like half a year, or can people do something else to impress?
You hear the word adventure bandied around an awful lot, and it's actually starting to become a little bit hackneyed, isn't it? It's overused. But let's use it just in this situation, because it is being used. An adventure, I think, is something that starts when you get out of your comfort zone, when you move away from all of the things that are familiar to you, when you put yourself in a situation where you have to stretch yourself, and where you put yourself in a situation where you're learning from all of those new things. And this could be a trip for a Londoner to the north of Scotland, the west coast of Scotland. Well, how much more different to London can you get? That's an adventure. You're out of your comfort zone, you're learning new things. Yeah, round the world trips are absolutely fantastic, but you need time for that. Either that, or you're just riding, and the only things that you're dealing with are potholes and border crossings and angry people because you're tired and you make them angry. Why not look at a 6-month trip across a continent? How fantastic would that be? And that gives you time to stop and look at the views, and to sit in the cafes and talk to people. For me, that's a lot of what overlanding's about, what long distance travel. It's the people that you meet. I think anybody who manages to do a round the world trip on a motorcycle, actually, around the world trip any way that they possibly can, but a motorcycle's best, is just a phenomenal achievement, and it's so cliched, but it is life-changing.
Yeah.
It's simply an amazing thing to be able to do. But so is travelling the length of a continent, and it keeps coming back in my mind to what can you do that puts you out of your comfort zone?
Yeah.
What can you do that's going to stretch you and give you some excitement and put you in situations that you could never have dreamt that you can find yourself in? What can you do where you're rubbing shoulders with people who are just some of the kindest and most welcoming people that you'll ever come across? And you meet those when you're on a long journey.
Some of the countries that you've been to are quite specialist interesting, considering that you write about your travels in your books, and now you also do audiobooks. How do you generate interest in the journeys that you've done to some places which may not necessarily be interesting to others?
I think it's by what you write about and how you write it. For me, a good book is written in such a style that it's a travel book first. For me, the motorcycle is a way of getting from one adventure, from one experience to the next. It's the oil in the engine of a journey, if you're with me, of the engine being the moving parts. And I think that if you can tell your story where the reader has all of their senses brought alive, so the smells, the touch, the sound, the sights, all of those sorts of things, then you have a chance of making your reader be there with you. And many readers, I think, will never have a chance to do something like I've been lucky enough to be able to do, because they've got responsibilities. And I hear that, I used to think if you really want to do a long distance trip, then you'll give up all of normal life and sell everything you've got and you'll go. But the reality is there are many people who have serious responsibilities and they can't do that.
But you're a responsible person too.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But I was lucky because I suddenly found myself in a position where I didn't owe anybody any money. My family were well. I had no children. I had no pets. And if I sold everything I'd got, then I could get the money together to do something different. And how rare is it that all of those pieces of the jigsaw puzzle are in one place at the same time? It is rare. A lot of people don't have that opportunity. So my books are written just as much to encourage people to think, well, if an idiot like Sam can do it, then so can I, as to help those people who would love to go travelling but can't yet.
Until now you've written mainly books about your journeys. Last year you brought out your first audiobook. How are your audiobooks different from your various written books?
The audiobooks have been in my mind for quite a long time. But originally when audiobooks were around, they were on CDs, and most audiobooks were heavily abridged, so large chunks were cut out so that they could be fitted onto a CD, and I really didn't like the idea of that. Why cut out important parts of a story? If it wasn't important, it would never have made it into the book in the first place. So I was put off the idea of doing it, but then of course the IT world changed and the facilities changed, and now most people download their music, and downloading a book is a much more normal thing to do. So the possibility came along for a completely unabridged book to be downloaded, and when that happened, a new world opened up. I was encouraged to do it to begin with by other motorcyclists. Over the years that I've been writing and promoting my books, I've been amazed by how many motorcyclists I've come across who are dyslexic. And one of the reasons they're motorcyclists is because they can enjoy their hobbies without having to read anything. But then they've been saying to me at book signings and so on, God, I really wish I could read your book, but I can't. I sometimes take a whole year to read a book. Well, that encouraged me to put the books into audiobook format.
Well, I'm going to encourage you a little bit more, because I never have time to read books, so I'm definitely going to listen to your audiobooks.
Fantastic, I'm delighted. I'll sell you a copy in a minute.
Hey, brilliant. Thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you very much. Thank you.